Hey, what's happening, y'all? It is me coming back at you again with another live stream. I'm not gonna be on here too long as it is very late on the East Coast time where it's 11 p.m. and I'm on the West Coast, which is 8 p.m. So it's a fairly early evening on my end. Still, well, mid-evening, I should say. Um, so I don't know the exact time in the UK off top of my head, but let me check and see, just out of curiosity, see what time it is in the UK. World clock. Let's see, timeat8.com. So in London, it is 4 a.m. So I would assume that everyone is sleeping on the UK side of things in Ireland. But who knows? We got people who are insomniacs who stay up longer than that. And yeah, let's see who's in here so far. So far, no one, but that's okay. That's okay. I'm going to go ahead and get to it real quickly. I wish I did this live stream earlier, but I just have to get some things off my chest. But before I do that, boxing related, that is, nothing with my personal life. But let me just go ahead and do my recap. I'm known late on this, but I thought I would get my 2 cents in before we transition to the upcoming lightweight bout. And by the way, the lightweights has been having some big fights the last 3 weeks. So another big lightweight bout coming up, and that's Vasily Lomachenko versus Richard Coleman, which that should be a very interesting fight, entertaining fight, no doubt about that. And that's a very dangerous fight for Lomachenko to take. So we'll see if he could come through, which he's expected to do. But I'm looking forward to that. I might break that down later into this podcast, into this live stream. But I want to go over the recaps of what happened last Saturday, fights that is. So since it is since it's past 4 a.m. in the UK side of things, it is Thursday over there right now. It is still Wednesday on my end. We had Devin Haney take on JoJo Diaz. As you guys know, JoJo Diaz was pretty much had his previous opponent pull out a fight against him. That is drum roll please. It is Ryan King Garcia, who's been pulled out of 3 fights so far after he beat Luke Campbell. And now he wants to talk himself into a world title fight with George Gambosis. Yeah, okay. So he pulled out of the fight, and JoJo was left without an opponent. But Devin Haney came in, and he signed on to the fight. So this fight was relatively put together on a short notice. Kudos to Devin Haney for taking the fight, and kudos to JoJo for accepting it. So, as you know, we all know that Devin Haney's having trouble getting top level fights as of late. So let me get into it. I'm going to just get into the fact that how I scored the fight. I did give Devin Haney the fight. I scored it round by round. I forgot. I actually don't have the list of rounds that I wrote down on my notes. I forgot to review. I forgot to bring them out, but that's okay. But I do remember I scored it 8-4. JoJo made it a very competitive fight. But was it overall impressive performance by Devin Haney? It was a hit and miss, just like his last 2 performances. One against Gamboa and the other against Jorge Linares. I will say this, though. He did perform a little better in those 2. He performed a little slightly better in this fight than those 2 fights, in my opinion. Because I think in those 2 fights, he was really getting hit a little bit more in those 2 fights. Well, other than the Gamboa fight, I will say in the Linares fight, he was getting more hit more in the Linares fight than he was against the Diaz fight. To be fair, JoJo was applying a lot of pressure on him. And he's hitting them with some very good shots. And there was times when Devin Haney was getting hit with some shots. Yes, he took them, but I don't like the way he reacts to them. It just seems like he doesn't react very well to get hit. So his chin is very, very questionable, especially at lightweight. And JoJo was asked about Devin Haney and the presence about Haney in the ring. JoJo said, "Hey, look, I think he's being compromised at the weight. He's a very good fighter, talented fighter. I think he needs to move up to 140. I just don't see how he can make 135 any longer." He also said that that's probably why his punching power may be compromised at the weight, because he's pretty much draining himself to 135 and he's rehydrating up to 155. That's the rumor. you know, 150 plus pounds, even 20. Pretty much the rumor is that he weighed in about 155 against JoJo that night, which could be true because he looked hellish big in that ring that night. But JoJo is saying that that probably could be the reason why his punch power is not having any effect at the weight, because he's draining too much weight to make the weight. So JoJo did advise that Devin would be more effective, especially with his power and his punch resistance at 140, which probably could be the case. But I will say this, though, to be fair, I mean, that is a rarity that you hear that someone's punching power is compromised being at a lower weight than going at a higher weight, because usually if you the power must carry if you go up to the higher weights, and if the power doesn't carry up to the higher weights, then your power is compromised because you keep going up in weight and may not be able to have any effect on the bigger guys. Anyway, good win for Devin. Where does he go from here? I know he's George Gambosa's. They supposedly going to sit down and talk to try to put this fight together. Will it happen next? I'm hopeful. I'm happy they are going into the direction of starting talking to each other. They showed up at, George, obviously showing up in Devin Haney's fight, and then after that he proceeded to the Tank Davis fight against CRUZ, which I'll get into shortly. So let's just hope they put that together. But I do have a feeling that they may not fight each other right away. If they do, hey, all props to both parties getting it done. More likely it's going to be in Australia because George Gambosa's, that's where he wants to fight. But realistically, I would be honest here, I don't see that undisputed fight coming off immediately, as much as I hope it should. I do see Gambosa's taking a easy touch up before he gets back in there with a top level fighter. I know he said that he wants to get in there with a top guy right away. But I think what they're going to do, they're going to look at the top 10 or, on the world rankings, if not the top 10 in one of the sanctioned body belts, and just take a voluntary defense before they fight Devin Haney. So that's the way I see it. And I mean, can't blame him because George Gambosas have taken three straight three straight tough fights so far. And they were very, very difficult fights. One against Mickey Bay, the other against Lee Selby, and obviously the most recently Teofimo Lopez. So I think he deserves an easy touch up before he gets in there with Devin. That's just my take on it. Let's just hope they get it done. Good win for Devin. Now let's move on to the Sunday pay-per-view, which is unusual for Florida Showtime to put this pay-per-view on a Sunday, but it is what it is. Tank Davis versus CRUZ. Where do I start on this one? This was a very interesting fight, if not pretty much entertaining fight. The way I scored it, and some of you may not like the fact how I scored this fight. I scored a 7-5 for CRUZ, and let me explain. Not only that he applied the pressure. I mean, obviously applying pressure doesn't mean that you're going to win the fight automatically. No. But I thought CRUZ was being very effective with his power shots more than he was getting credit for. I know aside from the Showtime commentary, they were being extra biased and they weren't giving CRUZ much credit for the work that he was doing in the inside against Tank. But he was doing some very good work in the inside. And what's underrated about Isak is that his defense is very, very good. Very, very good defense. I mean, the guy, keeps his shit tucked in, which makes it difficult for anyone to hit him. He moves his head a lot. He moves his head very well. And he can fight at a good distance. The one thing I would say about Isak is, he's such a small guy as far as height and stature-wise. The fact is that he always trying to lunge in with the lead left hook, and he swings wild a lot. So he needs to find a way to control that shot a lot better. He was missing a lot of shots by swinging those wide, lefts and right hooks. But I will say, though, Tank was boxing off the back foot for the majority of the fight. I mean, there were a couple of moments in the rounds, I think in mid-rounds, that he was backing up CRUZ, but when he realized that Isak wasn't going anywhere, he took his best shots. Tank backed off. And then there was a moment in that fight that he was bothered with a hand injury, supposedly. So he broke the hand in the middle of the fight. And obviously he backed off for the remaining of the fight, trying to fight him in angles and give him some just be a little creative with his punching, with his punching prowess and his boxing technique. And Tank is a very good underrated boxer, but the one thing I would say about Tank, and I've said this before, is his defense is an issue, man. The man doesn't really move his head enough, and he gets clipped sometimes. And luckily, CRUZ is not known to be a big puncher, but CRUZ did hurt him a few times in that fight. He hurt him in the body, I think in the second round or first round. He hurt Tank with a very good left hook in the 10th round, I believe. He hurt him pretty badly. Tank was backing off for at the end of the round, and obviously he was backing off at the beginning of the following round. So he hurt Tank a few times in that fight. And I scored that fight 7-5 to CRUZ because I thought he had the better work to Tank. I just felt that Tank wasn't really quite active. So I thought he lost that fight. But if you think that Tank won the fight, I'm not going to complain. I could see it either way, but it was not a clear victory for Tank if you think he got the win. I mean, look, he struggled in that fight, and he could tell you that himself. He admitted that he struggled in that fight. He even admitted that this is going to be a difficult fight before it began, because he said it himself that this is going to be an opponent that pretty much Tank is used to fighting guys taller than him. So he's able to punch upwards and generate more power in his shots. But the thing is that since this guy is so little, it's difficult to punch down and get enough leverage on your shots. I scored it 7-5. If you had an 8-4 for Eastside CRUZ, I don't know about that. I think that's a quite wide, because it wasn't really an 8-4 fight. That's not the way I see it. I know one judge had it 8-4 for Tank. I mean, then the other two judges had it 115. I think one judge had it 117 to 111. I could be wrong, but that it was not an 8-4 fight or 9-5 or 9-3. Obviously, it was a 7-5 fight. I thought CRUZ won the fight. I really thought he did. Now Tank, yeah, again, if you scored it for Tank, you can't score in more than 7 rounds. Tank did not, to my opinion, he didn't win the fight. But again, if you felt that he won it, because there were a couple of swing rounds that you could swing either way, I get it. But I thought that Tank really lost the fight. That's just my opinion. Stanley Hudson, what's up? Boxing Learner, what's happening, man? Yeah, body shots, Mr. Dan. The body shots. I scored at 8-4. I mean, look, I thought 8-4. I don't know. You could probably stretch it to 8-4 if you got it that way, but I don't know about that. I have to look at it again to see your point, Stanley. But I'm with you. I scored it for CRUZ. I thought CRUZ won that fight. I really thought he did. But I will say this though: when Tank was asked by Jim Gray, "Will you give CRUZ a rematch?" Tank said, "Hell no, I'm not giving this guy a rematch. I'm not giving a rematch." And I can see why, because Tank knew what was up. He was hurt a few times in that fight. And I think that's the first time I've ever seen Tank Davis hurt by anybody in a fight. And obviously, you can argue that he hasn't really fought anyone on world level to give him that type of resistance, which is true. He's avoided a lot of top guys. He avoided Chip Lomachenko. He's avoided Devin Haney, obviously. He's avoiding, let me see. He's avoided, who's the other guys? Teofimo. I mean, he's avoided a lot of top guys between 130, 135, even at 140. He's avoiding them. And the thing is, too, is that Floyd and his team, Mr. Leonard Ellaby, the big mouth, and Floyd, the narcissist. I mean, look, I respect Floyd in his career, but he's not a very good promoter. He's only got one fighter on his stable. Let's be real. And that's Tank Davis. And that's why they're trying to milk the success to Tank to some extent. And they're trying to protect him because they want to milk the bread. But given what happened that night, Sunday, given what happened, I just think that Tank is going to be on a lot of pressure to take tougher fights. I think Showtime, PBC, I mean, they're in a position now that they can no longer, and Floyd Mayweather, in the money team, which is Mayweather Promotions, they can't no longer protect Tank. They can't. They got to put him in there against those top guys. I know Floyd said that, and Leonard Ellaby said they only want in-house fights, so they're not going to fight any. Floyd says, I'm not going to make any other promoter rich or anything like that. That's something to that effect. So in other words, they're not going to make crossover fights. However, what I find a little bit contradictory to that statement by Floyd is that he mentioned that they tried to make the Ryan Garcia fight, and that fight fell through because Ryan didn't want it. So wait a minute, which one is it? Is either you take in-house fights or you don't, because you just said that you're not making it, you don't want to make crossover fights, but yet you try to fight Ryan Garcia. So how does that make any sense? I wish somebody would call him out on that, but it is what it is. Floyd doesn't like to be challenged when he's asked tough questions. He gets very offended. Then he wants to, he wants to control the narrative. I mean, that's how he is. He's a very, what's the word I'm looking for? He's a very mentally and emotional guy who doesn't like to be challenged. He likes to have things his way or the highway. He deserves to criticize people, but yeah, he doesn't like when people criticize him. So that's just a narcissist. Always, very sensitive to everything people say about him, even if it's constructive. But that's the way he is. Can't change that. Ryan Garcia beats Tank easily? Nah. The one thing I would say is, though, I don't think Ryan Garcia has what it takes to beat Tank Davis, because if you're gonna get put down by Luke Campbell and you nearly got you got hurt badly by Luke Campbell, and since after that fight you struggled to win that fight, and ever since then you backed out of 3 major fights. You backed out of the Ryan Garcia, that is. You backed out against Harvey Fortuna. You backed out against JoJo Diaz, and you backed out of the Devin Haney mandatory fight. So, yeah, Ryan Garcia, nah. I mean, until he steps in the ring with one of these guys, if he beats like any of those guys on that caliber of Devin Haney, George Gambosas, then I would say, okay, maybe he has a shot against Tank. But as of right now, no. I think Tank wins that fight. He beats Ryan Garcia, but I don't think he beats all the other top lightweights. I really don't. Hell, I got Richard Comey beating Ryan Garcia. How about that? Oh, you were joking. Okay. Hey, what up, Percy? What up, man? Stanley said, what's my assessment on the Haney's last fight? Yeah, I just gave my assessment. I mean, he did good. It was a good performance. But I thought it was quite underwhelming, into some degree, because many people expected him to blow out JoJo Diaz. When I mean by blowout, I don't mean by knocking him out, because we all know that David Haney's power is questionable at 135. It seems like he can't bust through great with his shots. But what people expected was a masterclass where he just goes in there and just completely outclassed the guy with little to no resistance. But the thing is though, JoJo gave him some good resistance and made it a very difficult fight for him. It was a very good performance. I scored at 8-4 for Devin, but it was somewhat underwhelming, kind of similar to the Jorge Linares and the Gamboa fight. So, yeah, we'll see where Devin goes from here. I hope he does get the Gambosas fight next, but I doubt that, because I think they're going to work out an agreement where both fighters are going to get interim fight before they fight each other. So, I mean, that's the way I see it. Very good stuff. I mean, the lightweights, we got Lomachenko versus Comey coming up, but let me break that fight down. Man, that's a very tough fight. Very tough and dangerous fight for Lomachenko. I mean, I've criticized Lomachenko, but I got to give him props for taking this type of fight. Yes, Comey has got 2 losses on his record, but he's lost to Robert Easter, Teofimo Lopez. No shame to that, because those are top fighters. I will say that I expect Lomachenko to try to confuse Comey with his upper lateral upper lateral movement with his reflexes and his foot speed, whatnot. Because Comey, the one thing I will say about Comey is that Comey is not, I'm not saying he's entirely flat-footed. He doesn't have the fastest feet, but it takes him a while to reset. So that's the thing about Comey. Once you hit him, he resets, and it takes him a while to do it. So I think Lomachenko can exploit that. But the one thing I'd be worried about is Comey's, obviously he can punch. The man's got power. And the thing about Comey is very long and rangy, dude. I don't know, man. Lomachenko is known to struggle with guys who have longer reaches than him. So this is not going to be an easy fight. I expect Lomachenko to win in all points. I don't expect him to stop Comey. If he stops Comey, I'll be a little surprised. I expect to win this fight by 8 rounds of 4, maybe 7-5 at best, maybe 8 rounds of 4. I don't expect a dominating type of fight from Lomachenko. No, I don't expect that. This is not a Nakatani type of fighter. No, Nakatani is far too slow as far as his foot speed is concerned. Hand speed is decent, but he's too upright and he's too slow as far as his movement is concerned. Comey is not that fast, but he's not that slow either. So I would say this: he is faster than Nakatani, and he punches a lot harder than Nakatani. So that is going to be a very interesting fight. He says that Stanley says that Haney has no chin like Anthony Joshua. Well, we have to see how Devin, how his chin holds up against bigger punchers. But to be fair, Joshua's chin is not that great, and is not the porous, is not that great either. But he's been hit with big punches like Klitschko. He's been hit with guys like Povetkin, and he's been hit with guys like Dillian Whyte. I mean, he survived those fights a bit, but he doesn't react very well to those shots. I mean, Andy Ruiz, not known to be a big puncher, but he could punch, and we saw what Andy Ruiz did to him, and we saw what we also seen what obviously recently Alexander Usyk did to him, and I'll get to AJ in a sec, because I mentioned about the step aside situation in my video upload earlier today. So if you guys haven't taken a look at it, I know Percy had chimed in on that a little bit. Guys, take a look at that upload I did earlier today. But let me get into some other stuff. Deontay Wilder retiring. Um, well, actually, it's alleged at this point because this is all stemming from the Kevin Hart interview. By the way, it's a very good interview, and that's probably the first time, one of the few times you've seen Deontay Wilder be more articulate with his answers. He was pretty articulate. I'm not saying he's, we all know Deontay is not the most articulate guy, but he seemed pretty articulate in his interview and his answers with Kevin Hart. And it's funny though, because I looked at that video and I saw the comment section, and a lot of Fury fans are not happy the fact that Deontay got an interview with Kevin Hart, and they were blasting Kevin Hart for saying, "Why don't you interview Tyson Fury? Why you interviewing this guy?" I mean, come on, guys, give it a rest. Kevin Hart can interview whoever the fuck he wants to interview. If he wants to interview Tyson Fury, he will do that on his terms. So, yeah. Now, there is one particular question, and that's what I'm going to get into right now, that Kevin Hart did ask Deontay. I know his wife asked him this question, Telly Swift. So Kevin Hart had to take it upon himself to ask the same question. He says, though, after the third Fury fight, we know we didn't get the result that we wanted. And you could tell Kevin Hart's a Wilder fan. What is next for you? Do you have anything left to offer? And Deontay did say, you know what? I will say this. Something tells me that I do have something to prove. I got to push forward. Then again, something tells me that I don't have to, because look, I've earned a lot of money. I became champion. I did that. I promised my daughter that I'm going to be in this business, become a world champion. I did that. I had 10 title defenses, and I feel that sometimes I feel that I don't have nothing left to prove, which I totally disagree with. But now the question is that it led to people speculate that he is contemplating retirement. I will say this, though, and then this is my 2 cents. I think when a man says that I'm contemplating retirement, and, Tyson Fury did the same thing, too, after the Wilder fight. He's got 1 foot out the door and he's got 1 foot in. What do I mean by that? I think that Deontay will retire, but not immediately as people are speculating that he will. I think he's got 2 or 3 more fights left in him. I think after those 2 or 3 fights, he's done with the sport. I really think that's what he meant. That's just my opinion. But I don't think he's going to retire right away. I think he's got 2 or 3 more fights mapped out and he's done. Who knows? He might not be done after that. We'll see. But he has mentioned that he is a licensed scuba diver. So scuba diver. So him and his wife are going to be doing that more often. And he still got to heal from that injury. You saw that he was wearing his cast still. So he's healing from that injury from the last Fury fight, whatnot. So it was a very good interview. And of course, that part of the interview got a lot of people talking about contemplate retirement. But me personally, it to me is a 1 foot in and 1 foot out the door type of situation where he is going to retire, but not immediately as people are trying to make it out to be. I think Wilder's already got 2 fights lined up, and maybe after those 2 or 3 fights, he get through them. Whether when he wins or loses, he's done. We'll see. And to be fair, Tyson Fury's got the same roadmap as well. He's got 1 foot out the door and 1 foot in too, because he's mentioned himself that he's thinking about retiring. Now, I know the WBC has ordered that fight. I'm going to get into that shortly, but I'm going to get into the comment sections here. Wilder should retire. He's finished. I mean, Fury destroyed him very easy. I wouldn't say it was easy. The second fight was easy, but not the first and not the third fight, especially the third fight. Yes, Wilder took a lot of damage in the second and the third fight, but that third fight took something out of Fury too. He took some damage too. He took some significant damage in that fight too, and he admitted that fight slowed him down. So, and he said it himself that after that third Wilder fight, he might think about retiring. He feels he has nothing left to prove, which is bullshit. I already broke that down. I think Deontay Wilder, circling back to Deontay Wilder, I think Deontay Wilder still got something to prove. If he retires today, hypothetically, that's on him. But I still have mixed feelings about that, because I think he still got something left to prove. He hasn't fought the other top heavyweights. He hasn't fought Whyte. He hasn't fought Joshua. He hasn't fought Joyce. He hasn't fought not Povetkin. I'm sorry, Usyk. I think he could beat Whyte. I think he could beat Joshua, obviously, and I think he's capable. I don't favor him against Usyk. I really don't. I think out of those 3 guys, he beats 2 out of those 3 guys, which is Whyte and Joshua. I think their styles is tailor made for Deontay Wilder. I really think that they are. Joe Joyce, I think Wilder outboxed Joe Joyce. I know Wilder's not known to be a good boxer, but I think he could give Joe Joyce some angles and win that fight. Because the one thing about Joe Joyce is that he is slow as molasses. Jesus Christ, it's like painful to watch Joe Joyce fight, man. But he's got a good jab. I'll give him that, and his foot speed is pretty good for a slow guy. I think Wilder can win that fight. Fury, on the other hand, I don't, me personally, I still going to stick to my guns on this one. I'm going to get into that, the Fury-Dillian Whyte now, transitioning to that one. I don't think that Tyson Fury may take that fight. If he does take the fight, I guarantee you that Top Rank's going to want that 80-20 split. I bet you that's what they're going to want. And there's another thing about that, too, is that Eddie Hearn and Dillian Whyte want to take this fight to purse bid. I don't know why they're so eager about going to purse bid. Why don't you just work out a deal within 30 days to avoid the purse bid? But it seems like they're very keen on that. That's on them. But I will say this, though, that people are not mentioning and they failed to bring up. There's a high probability that I should say, that Dillian Whyte may not take the Tyson Fury fight. And let me explain why. We all remember what happened last time when Dillian got into a purse bid with another fighter in a final title eliminator. That was Kubrat Pulev. Hearn was very keen about the purse bid. They were very confident they're going to win it, but out of nowhere, some company based in New York that was representing Kubrat Pulev outbidded Hearn and matched him for that fight, and they lost that purse bid. And as a result of that, Dillian Whyte pulled out of the Pulev fight, and because he didn't want to go to Bulgaria to fight Kubrat Pulev. In this case, if Top Rank beats Matchroom in the purse bid, I could see that Dillian Whyte and Ed Harris is going to pull out of that fight. Why you hate, Dan? You bugging. Now, I'm telling the truth. If they don't win that purse bid, don't be surprised if they pull out of that fight, because they did that with Kubrat Pulev. And people got short-term memories when it comes to boxing. I'm telling the truth. So, look, I really want to see the fight. Don't get me wrong. I really want to see the fight. Nah, you bugging. All right, whatever you say, Unrivaled. I really want to see the fight, but I just got some skepticisms about it. It's either Fury's not fully committed to it. I know Whyte wants to fight, but he wants it on his own terms on behalf of Eddie Hearn. But the thing is, too, is that if they go to a purse bid, if Matchroom gets outbid, then I think Whyte is going to pull out. He could pull out. I'm not saying he will, but don't be surprised if he pulls out of that fight if he doesn't win the purse bid, just like he pulled out of the Kubrat Pulev fight when he didn't win the purse bid. I'm just saying. What up, Mark?
Yeah, I was just running a test. I've been testing people all week. And no, I'll tell you what it is, right?
Uh-huh.
I'm proving a point that you can get a link out of everybody in the YTBC just by telling them that they hate and they bugging, and they'll drop a link and be like, come on.
You got me, bro. Okay. I see what's up. All right.
I didn't even know what you were talking about. I just said that. Like, it wasn't
okay. Yeah, you knew exactly how to you knew what button to push a little bit. I mean, I wasn't taking it personal. I'm just saying that.
Nah, it's not just you. I'm doing it to everybody. I've gotten like links from 26 channels so far. Just tell them, yo, you hate and you book it. It's like, right, then come on and explain it.
Nah, man. It's all good. It's all up. We're all gonna have. We can't always agree on everything, but we always have a difference of opinion. That's why it makes a good, healthy debate.
So, what points are you making?
I'm just saying that I know the WBC did the right thing and ordered the fight between Tyson Fury and Dillian Whyte, and they made it clear that if they don't come up to an agreement in 30 days, or if the Team Fury, whatever reason that Team Fury pulls out of the fight, they have to vacate the belt. So either Dillian be upgraded to be full champion, or he'll fight Wilder in the final, for the title for in the vacant fashion. Who knows what's going to happen? But I'm just laying out the scenarios. I just think that Tyson Fury doesn't seem keen on taking that fight right now. I could be wrong on that, but if Top Rank does entice him to take it, they're going to want that 80-20 split. Now, Matchroom, on the other hand, they seem very keen on taking this fight to purse bid. I don't know why. Maybe because they feel very confident they're going to win the purse bid. But if they don't win the purse bid, like they didn't win the purse bid against Kubrat Pulev, they could pull out. They could pull out.
I think the reason they're confident in the purse bid is they have a larger synergy in the UK in terms of staging shows. You know
Right.
what I mean? And this would be an all UK fight,
Right.
whereas Bob would probably want it in the US,
Right.
and there'd probably be more money for this fight in the UK market. I think that's why they'd be confident. My only problem would be for Matchroom wanting it to go to force bid is you're allowing Sky Sports in because they need an in right now.
Right. They could bid for that fight too. So Matchroom
But
may be in a bit of a may bit of a they may be in a very complex situation there because yeah, because anybody could bid for it. Like I said though, when they were confident about the Pulev purse bid last time, then out of nowhere, Mark dropped off a little bit. That's okay. Uh, like I said though, they were confident about the previous purse bid with Kubrat Pulev, and then when they lost that purse bid, they pulled out. So, uh, yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens in the next 30 days. Like I said, guys, just keep that thought out there. I know there's speculation that Fury doesn't want to take the fight because there is indication that he doesn't want to take it right now. However, don't be surprised if a purse bid does come up and Matchroom lose that purse bid that they're going to pull out of that fight because they did this before. I'm just saying, keep that thought in mind. That's a possibility. All right. Uh, let me see here. What's up, Terrence? Let me go back to the comments here. Boogie says that AJ is very chinny. Yeah, I mean, he doesn't have the worst chin, but is not the very good chin. Let's just put it that way. Uh, Terrence says that Wilder can fight Joyce. I give him a good shot. Yeah, I think Wilder beats Joyce. I really think he does. I think Joyce style is tailor made for Deontay Wilder, and Wilder's taller and longer than Joyce, so I think he will be able to beat him. The one thing I would say about Deontay is that he beats guys. He's very effective against guys that are shorter than him. So I mean, obviously, there's only one heavyweight that's taller than him by 1 inch or two. That's Tyson Fury. So yeah, Wilder's done. Fury he's gone. Fury's the best heavyweight today. Yeah, I mean he is the lineal champion. I mean he is the number 1 ranked heavyweight. So as far as being the best, he's still got to fight Whyte. He's got to fight Joshua. He's got to fight Usyk and Joyce, Andy Ruiz. I mean, he's still got to fight those guys. So he is ranked number 1, but I won't call him the best heavyweight as far as cleaning out the division. He hasn't even come close to doing that yet. And I don't think Tyson Fury is ever going to do that. I don't think he cares. So we'll see. Who knows? He might just drag this out he may vacate that WBC title and just run with the Lineal and the in the Ring Magazine title and fight Wilder for a 4th time. Hey, I'm just saying that could happen. That could happen. I'm just saying because I think Fury, that's what he really wants is that 4th Wilder fight. That's depending if Deontay Wilder's up for it and he comes back in a good and come and regain his form. So we'll see. Stanley says that Joyce is another UK high job that fight local fights. Well, I mean, to be fair, Joe Joyce has fought on world level. He's fought here a few times in the United States. He's fought here on the first Wilder and Fury undercard, and he's fought on another card on PBC when he fought Kolazic. And then he fought. He fought twice here in the I think 3 times in the United States. So Joe Joyce hasn't really fought all local fights in the UK, so that's totally inaccurate. What up, Brown Gone? Boogie says, why would a 4th fight make sense? Yeah, trust me, I'm agree with you on that. It doesn't make sense right now, not at all. Especially Wilder coming from back-to-back terrible losses. I mean, bad losses. So, well, the reason why Fury is hinting on a 4th fight is because I think he believes that Deontay Wilder would come back in form. I think he was going to, get a couple 3. He's going to get 3 wins, 2 or 3 wins. He might pick up a belt somewhere because he still sees that he can still make money from that 4th Wilder fight. So, I think that's what Fury's banking on. Now, does anybody really want to see a 4th Wilder fight? No, not right now. But that depends if Wilder can regain his form. If he could get 3 good wins, let's say if he gets a Joshua win, he gets a Ruiz win, then you add a little, you sprinkle in maybe a Whyte or Helenius win, then yeah, if he knocks all 3 of those guys out and picks up a belt somewhere, then yeah, the 4th fight would maybe warrant it. Because at the end of the day, Deontay Wilder is a huge moneymaker in the heavyweight division, along with Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua. That's a fact. So he's still an attraction, and people will love to see him fight whoever. So, yeah, the fourth fight doesn't make sense right now. Do I want to see it? No. But that's if Deontay Wilder can regain his form, come back with some 2 or 3 good wins, then I would say, okay, maybe we can get the fourth fight. The one thing I do not want to see is him picking up a win and then all of a sudden he gets a fourth Wilder fight. I mean, a fourth Fury fight. Nah, I don't want to see that. I want to see him pick up 2 or 3 good wins against those top heavyweights, and then he can get the fourth Fury fight. I think that would be warranted. Boogie says, I still want to see AJ versus Wilder. Yeah, that's still an intriguing matchup. That's a fight I really think we should get, man. I don't think it's on the scale of a Conor Brook because that's 6 years too late. Joshua and Wilder, I think that's a little different situation. Yes, both guys are like taking bad beatings. Both guys don't have their titles, and both guys are not the same fighters. We all know that. So this is an evenly matched fight. And me personally, I think Wilder will have the upper hand on AJ because Wilder still has the he still has the heart. He doesn't care. I mean, look, he knows he's going to get hurt. He's going to do what he can to find a way to win. AJ, on the other hand, I think he's lost that edge, man. I really think he has, and he's got to find a way to get that back. So, but anyways, again, I don't think Deontay Wilder's retiring immediately. He may retire after 3 fights. That's just the way I see it, and I think that's what he was speculating. I could be wrong, but yeah. Percy says, they are angling for a fight. Like I knew the loser of that fight would. Yeah, I know they are. I mean, Deontay Wilder, I know his team brought that out after the fight. They did say that, but they haven't mentioned it for a while. But I know Tyson Fury's been going around saying it. He's been going around saying it. So, yeah, they're I think both camps are still talking to each other. I have a feeling that's what's happening right now. They're trying to find a way to build to that fourth fight. I think that's what they're doing. What up? What up, Haplo? What up? So I think, like I said, though, fourth fight's it doesn't warrant it right now. But like I said, Wilder's not retiring. I don't think. That's just my opinion. Not immediately. I know people are running that narrative that he is going to retire based off what he said to Kevin Hart. But no, I think he's just got 3 more fights left in him, and then he's done. That's what that's what I believe. I really believe that. Percy said them fools gonna fight 3 more times. I know they trying to take it way back, man. They trying to take it back to the 50s and the 40s and maybe the early 60s. Because back then, we had heavyweights, and not even just heavyweights. We had great rivalries where guys would fight each other 6 times. I mean, goddamn. I mean, Jake LaMotta and Ray Robinson fought 6 times. And you had Stanley Sadler and Willie Pep. I think they fought 4 times, I believe, or 5 times. But yeah, other than that, yeah, if Fury Wilder takes it way back, I don't know, man. I don't know if they can sustain that, but we'll see. But yeah, man, I just that's my thoughts. I think that Wilder is going to get 3 fights in, and then he's going to call it quits. What should say? What's up, Aplo? Oh, damn! Why is everybody dropping off, man? I don't know. Okay. Yeah, so what else we got here? Let me look at my let's see here. Oh yeah, I gotta go over a few things. With the EZOC, not with the EZOC CRUZ. I'm sorry, with the WBA situation with UGAS. As you guys know, the WBA has denied Ordena's UGAS the opportunity to fight for a unification bout with Earl Spence. Whatnot. I know Earl Spence on team wanted that fight, and UGAS team certainly wants that fight because that's a big payday for Ordena's UGAS. So the WBA has denied UGAS the opportunity to take the fight, right? So they've ordered him to partake in a WBA 147-pound tournament, whatnot. But hey, Apple, can you hear me now? Or are you having
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, cool.
I just want to say, why are you hating on UGAS?
Me? Oh, the WBC.
UGAS. He's a dope ass fighter, bro. That dude has styles, bro.
I admire him.
He's styling all over people. Pacquiao, he retired fucking Pacquiao.
Yeah, he
Like,
retired
this
him, which we
guy's
didn't
not
expect
getting
that he
his
was going to do.
respect, bro.
Yeah, he definitely gets my respect. He fights everybody. I mean,
I'm
he was a
kidding.
guy who
Obviously, I know you respect him, but I'm just fucking with you.
I know he was a guy who gave Jamal James his first loss. I mean, even though not many people rate Jamal James, but he did. But anyhow, I was gonna say though, man, real quickly, just to circle it back. Wilder's interview with Kevin Hart. Did you get a chance to see that interview?
Kevin Hart,
yeah,
the comedian.
Yeah, Kevin Hart
No,
interviewed Deontay Wilder.
I did not see that. What was it all about?
You know, Kevin Hart has that like ice tub session. cool. You know, what is it called?
No, I don't know anything about that.
Yeah, I mean Wilder, you know, obviously he was sporting the
We were
cast in his
sitting
right
in an
hand.
ice tub together.
Yeah, the ice tub.
That's
Yeah,
a little bit. I don't want to say the word, but
and I would say this though, man. I mean, Deontay Wilder, we all criticize the way he's not a very articulate guy. Even though I like him as a fighter, he's my favorite.
I don't
heavyweight.
criticize him. I'm a Deontay Wilder fan.
Yeah, we all have, and I would say this is one of the few times he's actually been very articulate in his line of answers in the interview. He's been pretty articulate. And the one thing I would say, though, is that what's got people talking now is that there was one question that Kevin asked him. Is that, hey, man, I understand that, you had your trilogy. We did get what we wanted. We understand it is what it is. We move forward. But what is next for you? And this is what he asked Deontay. And Deontay's like, oh, man, you know what? I will say this. Something tells me, just as paraphrasing, I'm just not going word for word.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just paraphrasing. He said, something tells me I need to push forward because I think I still got something to prove. Then again, there's another part of me telling me that maybe I should just say, I don't have to do this anymore. Because look, the one thing I told my daughters when I entered the sport is that I'm going to be a world champion. And I did that, and I defended my title.
He definitely did that.
Yeah, he did that. Now you can argue the level of opposition.
He defended
wasn't that great
quite a
but
few
he
times.
did that. It's hard to. What's up?
He defended his title quite a few times. Like,
yeah, he
for
was a
somebody
5-year
who
reigning
people
champion.
seem to think doesn't have any skill whatsoever, like he seemed to defend his title quite a few times. Like I got to give him credit, bro. I like the guy. I think he's cool. He reminds me of myself a little bit, and in terms of like the way he came into the sport to defend his daughter and like to make a life for his family, and he was riding in a car, delivering sodas, and he was a delivery man, bro. And this guy came in the sport and he got a title and he defended it all those times, like knocking people out left and right. Like, you gotta give him a little bit of credit. He's not fucking.
And I will say this though,
he's not fucking Joe Gans.
Nah, he's not the old master. Nah, he ain't that type of fighter. But I will say this though, Wilder was an overachiever. Now that's not saying that's a bad thing. What do I mean by that? Is that this man started boxing at 19 years old.
Exactly.
19 years old. That's when he started. That's only 17 years. And that's
That's
going back
the
to
thing,
2004.
though. That's why people don't understand why Fury beat him. Fury has been boxing since he was born.
Right. Exactly. He's been boxing since he was formed. So that's why he's able.
That's all muscle memory, bro. Like he doesn't have to think like that. Where Wilder has to like, okay, I learned this at 19. I gotta throw this punch and that punch, and like by the time he's doing that, Fury's styling all over him.
Right. Because you're right. Muscle memory, reflexes. It's all ingrained in you. It's installed in you, as you say, when you start at young. These guys like Fury and Billy Joe Saunders of the world, they've been boxing since they were kids. Like they were 10, 8, 9 years old.
Not just them, but even Floyd. Floyd boxed from basically when he came out the womb, bro. Like, there's
Andre
a difference
Ward,
between. You can see the difference between guys who have been doing it.
Yo, Haplo, yeah, you kind of fell off. You faded away. Haplo. Yeah, you're probably having a connection issue, man. Yeah, just jump in and jump back out. Yeah, jump out, jump back in. All right. Well, let's until Haplo gets to sort out his audio issue. Let me see. Terrence says that don't be shocked if we see Keith Thurman sneak himself back into those WBA rankings. Think he still has a good relationship with them. Then he'll fight Ugas, beat him, and run off into unification with Bud. Yeah, you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. Because to me, I just think that Keith Thurman been out of the ring for 2 years now, going on almost to 3. For him to swoop in there and get a title shot like that, I think that's criminal in my view. I like, some part of me still likes Keith Thurman. I've been very disappointed with him over recent years. But for him to just sneak in there and get a title shot after not fighting in the ring for 3 years, and then also he gets that title somehow away from Ugas, I just think that's criminal. I think it's wrong, in my view. I'll get it to Bud in a second. And I got to call out the hypocrisy and the double standards on the Whyte TBC as usual when it comes to Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford. Ralph on Real, what's up, man? He says that would be dope. Terrence is responding to Ralph, says, hey, for real, though, everybody's going to hate, but that will make another mega fight in that division. You know what? Look, if Keith Thurman could fight Terrence Crawford, I wouldn't mind seeing that fight. But again, I just don't see why it justify him to get a shot at Terrence Crawford after being out of the ring for 3 years. Why does he get to leapfrog everyone else who's working their way up in the rankings to get a title shot? Guys like Crawford, guys like Spence, and guys like Ugas. So I don't see why he's entitled to do something like that. That's just my thoughts. The one thing I also want to talk about, let me get back to the Ugas thing real quick with the WBA. So they've ordered him to fight in a tournament style that they set up just to get rid of all the these interim belts, this, that, and the third. Obviously, the ABC, which stands for the Association of the Boxing Commissions, that's based in Florida, they are on the WBA's ass because of the fact of the scandal that they had to really go through with the Michael Fox and the Gabriel Matre fight. And so they're working hard to clean all this, clean this mess up with the belts, with the interim belts, I should say. But anyways, Ugas was denied the request to fight in a unification bout with Errol Spence, right? So a lot of guys who are pretty much the Errol Spence fans are very upset about that. Okay, rightfully so. You should be upset at the WBA for denying a unification bout between two top welterweights, right? Well, what I don't understand is that, okay, Earl's upset about it. He feels that he's being criminally undermined by the WBA for getting a third belt. Okay, but why Terrence Crawford? Terrence Crawford is no longer with Top Rank, so he's free to to go wherever he wants to go. So you could do business with him through his manager. Okay, so and speaking of Terrence Crawford petitioned the WBC to install him as the mandatory to Errol Spence WBC title. And the people who are very upset, and they know who they are. And I still got some bit of respect for them, but I got to call it out for what it is. They were all up in arms about the WBA for denying Errol Spence the unification opportunity, but they have nothing to say about the WBC nothing to say for Terrence Crawford trying to get the WBC to install him as the mandatory challenger. Why aren't they talking about Bud and fighting Crawford? Why aren't they talking about that? Okay, Ugas didn't happen. Okay, Bud is available. He's ready to fight. So why not take that fight instead? What is it about Bud Crawford that you guys are worried about? I don't get it. He's got the WBO belt. He's asking the WBC to make him mandatory. So why are you guys, clamoring for that? The Ugas fight is not going to happen. Get over it. We got Bud available. Let's make that fight happen. But I know the narrative. Bud doesn't really deserve a fight with Spence. Yada yada yada. They're gonna make up all kind of type of excuses. First, Bud is with Top Rank, so you can't make the fight happen. Well, Bud is no longer with Top Rank, so why don't we make the fight happen now? Ugas is not gonna happen, guys. You got to get over that. You can write to the WBA. You can slander them all you want to, but they're not gonna change their decision. It's been made. Spence got Bud available. Let's make that happen. And I'm going to tell you this right now. If Errol Spence fight anybody else other than Terrence Crawford, then I'm going to be very, very disappointed, and I'm going to go after Errol Spence. Real talk. You can't sit there and defend him when he was trying to get a title unification with UGAS, got denied, but he wants to take a fucking tomato can touch up without fighting Terrence Crawford, who's available. Nah, man, I'm not buying it. If you're gonna try to fight UGAS, then you should have no excuse to fight not to fight Terrence Crawford. None whatsoever. I agree, Percy. I just think that Bud's style is just too much for Errol Spence. I don't see how Errol Spence beats him, and I think that's what he's worried about. I think Errol Spence himself knows that he may not be able to beat Terrence Crawford. That's why he's trying to prolong that fight and stay away from him as long as he can to see if there's any type of slippage. I really believe that. But I think at this point of Errol Spence's career that he can no longer stall this fight. Because let's not forget now, Errol Spence himself, his body's been beat up after that car accident. And he's not the same fighter. I'm just keeping it real. Errol Spence, in my opinion, doesn't have that much time. So he's got no choice at this point to take this fight. He's got no choice. Again, I'm going to repeat myself. You could get UGAS. Tough luck. Sorry. I understand. It's disappointing. But Bud Crawford's available. Make that fight. Earl, make the fight. He's available. So anyways, Ralph on Real says that that's karma for Spence. He denied Bud a title shot. Yeah, he did. Initially, he did. In a way, he did. He told Terrence Crawford to go get a belt, then we'll talk. Terrence Crawford gets a belt. Now they've been stalling. They've been stalling, and they've been prolonging this process for a long time now. Long time now. I think Errol Spence really got nowhere to go. That's why he was trying to get to UGAS before Terrence Crawford came into the picture after the Shawn Porter fight. He was trying to get that fight made before any talks about Bud trying to go after him. But now that the WBA has denied him that fight, he's under a lot more pressure to take the Bud fight. I really believe that. He's got to take it. Ralph says that Tara says that's strange though. The WBA and Earl, what did he do to them? I mean, Earl didn't do anything. It's just I don't know. I really wish I had the answer to why the WBA made the decision that they made. But I will talk about the hypocrisy with the WBA in a second. Let me just stay on Earl and Terrence Crawford for a minute. But yeah, I just think that again, the guys who are very upset with the WBA for making the decision that they made, why aren't they pushing for the Spence and the Crawford fight right now? Why aren't they pushing it? Crawford's available. The man had to go to the WBC to make him mandatory. They haven't made a decision yet, but that goes to show that Terrence Crawford really wants that fight so badly. He wants it. He's available. Take the fight, Earl. Take the fight. Look, here's the thing, Terrence. That fight's got to be next because there's no excuse for Earl to try to go to UGAS. Did get denied, but yeah, he's going to neglect Terrence Crawford, fight some other tomato can or some type of ranked fighter that we never heard of in either sanctioning body of the WBC or the IBF. It makes no sense for him to do that. I'm just keeping it real. What else is there? Now, speaking of the WBA, right? I'm going to say something here. If they want to go ahead and install a 147-pound tournament, so be it. But why aren't they doing that in the other weight classes? Why aren't they doing that at 135? Why aren't they doing that at 140? And why are they doing that as featherweight? Or super featherweight, I should say, or featherweight. Why aren't they doing that in those weight classes? And let me get on the featherweight for a second. That is Leo Santa Cruz. Shout out to Fred Barbershop Conversations. I saw a video on this, even though I don't agree with everything he said, but I do agree with one instance here. If you're going to block Ordena's UGAS for partaking in the unification bout with another champion, and you're mandating him to partake in a tournament, why aren't you doing that with Leo Santa Cruz at featherweight? Leo Santa Cruz has not defended that WBA strap, and he's a super champion, by the way. He hasn't defended that featherweight strap for 2 years. And he's not an active fighter. So How does that make any sense? Why aren't they doing anything about Leo Santa Cruz? Why aren't they doing anything about Tank Davis at lightweight? I mean, Tank Davis is the regular champion, but I know George Gambosis is the super champion. But why aren't you telling Gambosis to fight in a tournament for the WBA? Why is the WBA mandating the other divisions to partake in the tournament? Why aren't they doing that? Why is it only at 147? I don't quite understand the situation there with the WBA. So that's a bit of a double standard in my view. So I got to really point that out. Again, shout out to Fred Barbershop Conversation because he brought this up. Another thing I want to get into is the AJ thing. All right, I got to circle it back to AJ for a moment. All right, and here's what I'm seeing here. The hypocrisy that keeps going on this YTBC platform, right? So you have over a year ago when we had Tyson Fury and you had Anthony Joshua. They were the two champions at heavyweight. Everyone was I was talking about featherweight, not super featherweight. Tank has I think he has the super featherweight title at 130 pounds, but Leo Santa Cruz has the featherweight title. He has the WBA featherweight title. Actually, you know what? Actually, you know what? You're absolutely right. Tank actually has that title. You're actually right. Damn, man. I should have did my research before I gave Fred the compliments. You're absolutely right, Ralph. Thanks for correcting me. But you know what? Let me rephrase this. Why aren't they having any other tournaments in the other weight classes? Why aren't they having any other? I mean, look. Now let's say this. Gervonta Davis. He has a WBA super featherweight title, right? The super title. Why aren't you mandating him to fight that fight in 130 in the tournament style? Why aren't you doing that? Why are you holding that same standard to Tank Davis, but yet you're doing that to Ordained UGAS? I don't get that. So, yeah, that's definitely a double standard with the WBA. Now, as far as Anthony Joshua is concerned, last year, over a year, we had to hear this talk about Undisputed. Nothing wrong with that. I wanted Undisputed myself. But when the WBO and Wilder was owed a rematch with Fury legally, the other side, and I'm going to call it for what it is, the AJ fanboys and sycophants and nutcases, they didn't want to hear anything about mandatories. They didn't want to hear anything about Wilder legally had a right to a rematch with Fury. They didn't want to hear it. They were making videos day after day after day, night after night. They were making live streams day after day, night after night, slandering the WBO, Usyk that is, slandering Wilder, telling them they need to get out the way and allow Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua fight for Undisputed. That's what they were doing. They were saying that Undisputed trumps everything else. It trumps mandatories. In this particular situation with Deontay Wilder, yes, he's owed a rematch, but given the fact that he got beat up so badly in the second fight with Tyson Fury, he should have not had, he has no right to a rematch with Fury. This is what they were saying. Okay? This is exactly what they were saying. But now that Joshua's no longer champion, Fury's a champion. Usyk, and Joshua's owed a rematch with Usyk, by the way. Legally, he is, right? So, Usyk is the three-belt champion, and Fury's still the champion. There's some talks about Fury and Usyk trying to get put together undisputed bout, possibly in Saudi Arabia, because the Saudis want that fight. Soon as that news comes out, the Joshua sycophants didn't want to hear that. They was like, nope, we can't have undisputed unless Anthony Joshua gets his rematch and Dillian Whyte gets his title shot with the WBC mandatory. This is what they're saying. Now they flipped the script. It appears to me that undisputed does not matter to that crowd unless Anthony Joshua or Dillian Whyte, by that matter, is involved. That's the way it is. So it's a complete double standard. So, I don't want to hear this bullshit about undisputed. If you're going to talk about undisputed, go all the way. Even if your fighter fucking loses and they're not in that title picture, you should still want the undisputed fight. But apparently that's not what that's not that type of standard with them. That's not their concern. If Anthony Joshua's not involved, then no undisputed should go down. If Dillian Whyte's not involved, then no undisputed fight should go down. This is what they're saying right now. I'm seeing this every fucking day, the hypocrisy, man. I really can't stand it. And sometimes that's why it makes me discouraged putting, to have these conversations and the dialogues with on the YTBC, man. It just says it's disgusting. And I mean, honestly, do I expect any better than do I expect any better than what we're getting right now? It's not surprising to me, And I said to myself too, and I had a couple conversations offline with you guys, and I said, hey, look, if soon as Joshua or Fury loses one of their titles, unfortunately Joshua lost his title to Usyk, I guarantee you the undisputed talk is going to go off the picture. I guarantee you that side who's clamoring for undisputed, who was pissed off that the arbitrator ruled in Wilder's favor to block the undisputed fight between Joshua and Fury, I guarantee you if Joshua loses that fight to Usyk, they're not going to talk about undisputed. They're going to talk about mandatories. They're going to talk about Joshua being legally owed a rematch clause with Usyk. Oh, by the way, another double standard. Joshua got beat up by Usyk. Outclassed, got dominated. Just like Wilder got dominated by Fury in the second fight. And yet they're saying that Joshua's owed a rematch, but not Wilder. Wow. Okay. And wishful thinking, too. They still believe that AJ can go back in there and beat Usyk. That's not going to happen, guys. I'm sorry to say that. That's not going to happen. And stop comparing Usyk to Andy Ruiz. He's not Andy Ruiz. He's not going to be a guy who's going to be complicit where he's going to blow up in weight, blow up to 30 plus pounds, be out of shape, not trained for the fight, eating burgers and pizzas and, all those high calorie foods. He's not going to do that. This guy's always in shape. He's always prepared. He's mentally strong. And he's been a celebrity for years in Ukraine. He's made big purses for years off, not just of purses, but endorsements as well. So this guy's not deterred by the spotlight. So he's not going to be faced by that. He's going to be much more stronger ready in that rematch. So like I said, though, this is not to slander AJ, but I'm just telling you for what it is. That rematch is not going to go any differently. And AJ, and by the way, Anthony Joshua is not confident in going in that rematch. He's showing signs of that. If you could tell the difference of his confidence levels on this situation versus the Andy Ruiz rematch, he was very confident going to that rematch. Go look at the interviews. If you look at what we're seeing right now, no. That's why the step aside talk is starting to unfold right now. I think it's a smokescreen. I really think, and I could be wrong, I've been proven wrong before, I think Joshua Hearn's already made up their decision or made up their mind. I think they're going to bypass the Usyk rematch. I think they're going to do it because we're 3 months in now. It's been 3 months since that fight concluded. We have yet hear any announcement about that rematch. Who knows? We might get it after this live stream ends. We might get it after this live stream ends. But all I can say is that, it's wishful thinking, guys. I look, it's wishful thinking. What up, Boxing Lounge? To be fair, Wilder Fury had already fought twice. I get that, but Wilder had a rematch clause. It was a 2-way rematch clause between the two going to that second fight. So whoever is the loser of that fight has a right to invoke the rematch, and that was Wilder. But what I'm saying, Percy, is that the hypocrisy behind that, even though we all knew that Wilder was owed the rematch, but given the fact that the way he was beaten up, the way he was beaten, there was a propaganda that was put out there that he didn't deserve it. He needs to step aside and allow Fury fight AJ. That's the hypocrisy here because he got beat up badly. But flip the script. Now we have AJ who got beat up badly by Usyk. Now they're saying that he needs his rematch. You see that I'm pointing out the hypocrisy here, and I'm gonna be consistent. I'll say this once and I'll say it again. I said that Wilder needed to step aside. I felt that he was not going to be ready for the rematch. I felt that he was not going to be properly prepared because the way he was beaten. I thought he needed to step aside because I think he needed to let Fury go back to it when he feels he's ready to do it. That's what I said. I'm saying the same thing for Joshua. I don't think Joshua's going to be mentally prepared for that fight with Usyk. I don't think he will be physically ready either. Because look at him. He's all over the place. He's confused. He doesn't know what to do. I think he fears that he may lose to this guy again, and that's the way I see it. I just don't see how Joshua beats Usyk. I just don't see it. I don't see it at this point. I'm just keeping it real. DGO says, what's up, DGO? He says that AJ already activated his rematch clause. That's not the point. I understand he did that. What I'm saying is that the hypocrisy about the undisputed versus mandatory talk. The AJ fanatics, not all of you, I'm just saying the fanboys, the rational ones I could deal with. But the fanboys, the whole year, they were slandering Deontay Wilder, slandering Usyk, who's the WBO mandatory. At that time, the mandatories and Wilder being owed the third fight did not matter to them. They were putting out countless videos. They were putting out countless videos and countless live streams, slandering Wilder, slandering Usyk, telling them they need to back off. They need to back off. They need to allow Fury and AJ fight. That's what they were doing. And their whole argument was undisputed matters. That's what matters. Nothing else matters. But since they didn't get the undisputed fight and AJ lost his titles, the script has been flipped. Now undisputed doesn't matter unless AJ is involved. So the hypocrisy is just makes my head spin. I'm just being honest. I'm just keeping it real. Nah, AJ Usyk was not competitive. Stop it. No, it wasn't. No, stop it. Stop it. AJ Usyk was competitive maybe for 3 rounds, and that was it. That was it. No, it was not a competitive fight. It was a complete domination by Alexander Usyk. I'm sorry. That was a complete domination. AJ nearly got stopped at the last round. I'm just keeping it real. He got stopped. Nearly got stopped, I should say. He got dominated. That was a whitewash by Usyk. Usyk routed him. Washed him, I should say. I think I knew Wilder were going to fight for Thursday. I knew these fools are going to. Well, we already talked about that. yeah. I mean, they are going to do that versus. I think Joshua Usyk will happen. I mean, there's still a slight chance that it will, but me personally, I think they've already made up their mind. I think they're probably going to forgo that rematch. It's possible they're going to do that. The way they've been speaking about step aside, whatnot, and the way that AJ's talking about trying to find another trainer, then he doesn't want to get rid of his current training team. He wants to add a 4th head. Nah, man, that whole team is in a bit of disarray right. Excuse me. That whole team is a bit of disarray right now. So they need to get their shit together. I'm just keeping it real. They got to get it together. Oh boy. DGO, are you seriously? I hope you're trolling with this comment. Usyk didn't look pretty after that fight. Or you talk about the scar that he received? Yeah, I mean, that's nothing out of the ordinary. Usyk scars up easily. That's nothing unusual. But the fact is that, did you see what he did to AJ's right eye? He damaged that eye pretty good. He damaged it pretty good. Terrence says at this point, have to discuss politics of boxing, the politics of boxing in person. It's bad out here. And it's kind of expected better. As soon as they mention the community to thrash on, I leave because I know it's emotional now. Yeah, it is, man. I mean, look, let's just say this is a cakewalk compared to what happened many years ago after the, during the Reconstruction era, which is way before all of us were born, even before our grandparents were born. I could tell you back then, boxing was more tribalistic than it is today. There's guys who literally would kill you, and I think it still goes on to this day. They literally would kill you if you root against the opposition. If you had anything to say that was constructive against the favorite fighter, they will kill you. They will beat you up. So yeah, Ralph on real. Yeah, Usyk dominated that fight. I mean, we can't sugarcoat it, guys. AJ was dominated. He was beat up badly. He was beat the fuck up. I don't know why people are dismissive about that. He was beat the fuck up. Look, if he really think he wasn't beat the fuck up, why is he contemplating stepping aside? Why is he contemplating about not taking the Usyk rematch? I'm telling you, he didn't have this type of approach going to the Ruiz rematch. He was very confident going into that fight. But in this one with Usyk, he is not very confident. I don't think he wants that rematch. And I think they are going to pull out of it. That's just my opinion. I could be wrong. But even if he goes through with it, I don't think he'll be ready for that rematch mentally. I don't think he'll be mentally prepared. And he may not be physically ready for it either. So, yeah. In my opinion, AJ should take 2 tune-ups to get ready for Usyk. Yeah, exactly. I agree. I think he needs to get 2 tune-up fights before he gets back in there with Usyk. I've said this before, but a lot of people are saying I'm hating because I mentioned that. I think he needs to get some warm-up fights before he gets back in there with Usyk. Yeah, Ralph says AJ was almost close. Exactly. You saw the condition he was after the fight. The man was sitting on a stool for a long time before Michael Buffer made the announcement who the winner of the fight was on the PA. So yeah, to be real, I think they're stalling for a later date. I mean, that's possible, but I don't know. But if that's the case, what's the point of them stalling though? What did they get out of that? I really don't know. Me personally, if they really were stalling, they wouldn't really be talking about step aside. I mean, I'm not saying that's not out of the realm of possibility, but I just don't see what's the benefit of them trying to stall to get a later date. Look, I'm saying there's a slight possibility that rematch may happen, but me personally, I think they're edging towards pulling out altogether. That's just not my take. I could be wrong, but that's just the way I see it. You know what? That's a possibility. I may agree with you on that one, Percy. I don't think Usyk's going to have a long title run, but who knows? We underestimated this guy many times. He may have a longer title run. He may have more than 3 title defenses. We'll see. We'll see. He could. Tech Terrence says it takes the right fight to be made that gathers up the duality, and you'll probably see a modern day reenacted depending on who wins, loses. Yeah, couldn't you agree more? I think it's the stall to get more prep time. Yeah. You know what? I can't argue against that, Percy, but how much time are they going to stall? Because even if they push this out to a year, I don't think it's going to be enough time to prepare and get ready for a guy like Alexander Usyk. Because as Alexander Khrushchev, who's Usyk's promoter and manager, he said himself, though, you can stretch this out to 6 months to a year. Joshua's not going to be ready in time to change. It's not going to be enough time to change your entire style for a fighter like Alexander Usyk. That's just not going to happen. If he really needs more time to prepare, he's going to need more than 1 year. He's going to probably need about maybe 2 years at best, I would say, just to get ready and prepare for a guy like Alexander Usyk. Maybe 2 years at best. I mean, here's the thing, though. If they're going to prepare, who are they preparing with? Robert McCracken? Because if that's the case, I'm very worried about that. That's not going to bode well. I mean, if they're going to prep on the new style, they need a new trainer. And unfortunately, I believe that Robert McCracken is there to stay. They might add an additional trainer, but other than that, that's going to cause a lot of friction between the other 3 trainers. Naming Robert McCracken, you have Joby Clayton and Angel Fernandez. So that's the thing about Joshua. He's got to cut some heads, man. You can't have too many people in camp telling you what you need to do, what you cannot do. That's the thing. Yeah, Usyk is getting old because those that foot speed and those reflexes is not going to stay there as your body ages. I get that. So that's why if they're going to stall for time, then yeah, do that. But 1 year, I don't think it's going to be enough time. Maybe 2 years at best, because I think that's what Usyk's going to slow down. They may catch him at a good time. That's why I say at best, let Usyk go. Go back at him when you're ready to do it. I don't think 6 months to 2 years is going to be enough time for them to prepare for that. I'm just being real. I just don't see that being enough time. Yeah, I'm sure they may have someone. I mean, let's hope they do, but I don't see no indication of Joshua getting rid of Rob McCracken. I don't see that right now. I could be wrong, but as of right now, there's no indication that's going to happen. So, let's see what else is going on before I close this up. Sorry, guys. I have a little sinus here. Don't worry, it's not a cold or anything like that. I think it's a little allergies because of it's it's winter over here on our end. Actually, it's not. Is it close to winter? Yeah, it's close to winter on our end. Let's see. So Liam Smith and Jesse Vargas are trying to negotiate for a fight in Las Vegas on January 29th. I thought Jesse Vargas retired. He's running for Congress. I guess he quickly changed his mind. I guess he quickly changed his mind and said, politics isn't for me. I'm going to go back to boxing, just earn some money, and then retire. All right. So, Ordenas Ugas, we mentioned them earlier. So, him and Stanosis, they have agreed to a fight. First bid has been canceled. So, Ugas will be defending his title against his mandatory Stanosis. I don't know much about him, but I'll have to do some research before I break that fight down stylistically. Maxim Vashlov, he's fighting Felix Valera on December 25th in Sochi. As you guys know, Maxim Vlasov was supposed to fight Joshua Buatsi, but Buatsi pulled out of that fight. So, and obviously, I think I know why he pulled out. They said it was an injury. It could be true. But after the fact that Kit Gallahan and Terry Harper both got knocked out on the same card, on a matchroom card, I think that scared a lot of people because Buatsi was supposed to fight 3 weeks after that or so. And they pulled him. There's speculation he could have pulled out because they felt he wasn't ready for a guy like Maxim Vashklov based off what happened to Harper and Gallahan. So I don't know. Ralph says, where are you seeing the Vargas Smith fight? It's on Boxing Scene. They're reporting it right now. So they just reported it 1 hour ago. John Fury said that Jake Paul will be ready. Tommy Fury will be ready for the Jake Paul fight in March. Well, John, wishful thinking. Because Jake Paul just came out and said that you guys are not getting a shot now after you wasted this time. Jake Paul just came out and said that you guys are a shady group of people, the Furies, which they are. They are shady. So he just came out and said, your boy just blew $1 million payday, so he's not getting it back. So Jake Paul's not going to waste his time with you. I could be wrong, but that's what he said. But who knows? He may have a change of heart if he gets past Tyron Woodley for the second fight, that is. So we'll see if John Fury can persuade Jake Paul to give them another chance to get that fight back on for March. I really doubt it because Jake Paul's pretty much moved on from them, for the Furies. He's moved on from them. So, and I feel that rib injury supposedly Tommy Fury had sustained, I think that's suspect. I think psychologically they feel that he's not ready for the fight. They probably feel that he's not ready for the pressure like his brother Tyson is. So, yeah. What else we got here? Murat Garcia suffers an arm injury. He withdraws from the Rendenko bout. Garcia, he hasn't really been fighting anybody at world level at heavyweight. He's just been fighting low-level fights. I don't know what that's about. It is what it is. Liam Williams had parted ways with Dominic Ingo ahead of the Chris Eubank clash, so he's no longer being trained by Dominic Ingo. So we'll see where that takes place. Josh Taylor, Jack Catterall. They had their first presser today, so we'll see how that we'll see how that fight pans out. But obviously, Josh Taylor is the heavy favorite. Jack Catterall, I have seen him fight a few times, but I'm not impressed. So we'll see. Who knows, man? This has been the year of the upsets. What else is here? Oh, by the way, Linda Arthur has been let go by Frank Warren. So now he's a free agent. Be interesting to see. It'd be interesting to see who picks him up, where does he go from here. So yeah. Speaking of Anthony Yard is in line to get his title shot between the winner for the WBO light heavyweight title, that is, between the winner of Joe Smith Jr. and Callum Smith. Not Callum Smith, Callum Johnson. And Callum Johnson has had he was a world title challenger previously to Arthur Proterviev. He did give Proterviev some bit of trouble in a couple of rounds, so he even put him down and hurt him he hurt him pretty badly when he put him down with the left hook. But Smith is getting another title shot. Peace to you, DGL. Happy holidays, brother. Happy holidays. But I do expect Joe Smith Jr. to get past Callum Johnson. Then we'll have that that title fight between Joe Smith Jr. versus Anthony Yard. So that would be an interesting fight. That'd be a slugfest. Expect a lot of bombs to be thrown in that fight. Yeah, obviously that's a fight I really want to see. Dimitri Bivol fighting somebody that I don't even give a damn about. And what the hell's going on with Dimitri Bivol? Great fight, very good fighter. But the way they've been moving him, man, Matchroom, man, what is Eddie Hearn doing with Dimitri Bivol? In fact, why have they made it a unification bout with Arthur Beterbiev? Because he fights on PBC, doesn't he? Or he fights on Top Rank. One of the two. But why haven't they even come close to making that unification bout between Beterbiev and Bivol? I mean, that's surprising. We've been talking about that fight for 2 years now, and neither men haven't really been active. What the hell's going on? All right, so we already talked about Deontay Wilder's having mixed feelings about fighting again. We already talked about that. But me personally, I'll stick to my guns on that one. I think he has 1 foot in and 1 foot out, which means that he will take 3 more fights before he retires. Maybe 2 at best. Or 3 at best, I should say. Oh, in case you guys don't know, Roy Jones Jr., Roy Jones Jr., James Toney, Miguel Cotto, and Holly Holm has been elected to the 2022 Boxing Hall of Fame, the International Boxing Hall of Fame, that is. Congratulations to those individuals. Well deserved. Holly Holm, I know Holly Holm is only known for her upset win over Ronda Rousey in the MMA world at the UFC. I get that, but people don't know Holly Holm is an accomplished boxer. Way before she became a mixed martial artist. She was an undisputed welterweight champion. She has wins over Ann Sophia Mathis or Jane Couch, and wins over, I believe she fought Mia St. John at one time. I could be wrong, but she actually has some good wins on her resume. I remember when I first saw that Ann Sophia Mathis fight, man, that was the first fight, that was a brutal fight. Holly Holm got knocked out so badly, man. I thought she was going to get killed. I thought she died in that fight against Sophia Mathis, because Mathis was a big puncher. And I thought she was kind of big for that welterweight class too. But anyhow, Holm avenged that loss against Mathis and won the fight. But other than that, she was a great champion in boxing. She was an undisputed welterweight champion and whatnot. And she was supposed to fight Cecilia Brækhus. If people don't know about that, they were supposed to fight, and somehow, some reason, Holm elected to, she elected to retire, and she retired as a champion. Her last win was against Mary McGee. What do you know? In case you don't know, Mary McGee's it was a former IBF light welterweight champion who recently lost her title to what's her name, Chantel Cameron. So other than that, yeah, congratulations to Holly Holm. She well deserved. She deserved to be in the Hall of Fame. What else she has here? Oh yeah, she has a Hall of Fame win in Christy Martin. So yeah, very good wins for Holly Holm. James Toney, yeah, way overdue. Now look, I think the reason why, because James has been, a controversial figure, especially with the drug, to be testing positive for PEDs after the John Ruiz fight at heavyweight. So I guess that, and he kind of burned bridges with certain people too. So I think it took him a long while for people to forgive and forget about the antics of James Toney. Yeah, well deserved. Great fighter his time, but he could have been much greater if he would have been more disciplined. And look, I'm gonna just tell you this, and I maintain my position on it. And I've had several conversations a while back, years on the YTBC. I said that James Toney, if he was more disciplined, it took this sport far more seriously after the Michael Nunn fight, he could have gave Roy Jones a lot more resistance than he did in their only fight that they had back in '94. Not saying that he would have won that fight. I felt that if he had been more disciplined, he'd be more controlled and more measured. He would have gave Roy Jones some problems. He probably could have knocked him out if he got him with one good shot, if he had placed the shot correctly. But he was just swinging all over the place against against Roy Jones, hoping he'll land something, but he just looked lethargic. I know some argue that he lost a lot of weight because he was outgrowing the super middleweight division. Well, that was a problem with James Toney. He was just blowing up at weights like in every single fight. He just couldn't keep his weight together. He was never in shape. And he was losing to guys that he should have never lost to. And that was the things that played his career, is that he just didn't take certain fights seriously. They end up losing those fights. I mean, honestly, I felt he won the first Montel Griffin fight, but at the same time, you could tell in that particular fight, he didn't really take it seriously. He didn't seem motivated at all when he was fighting him. So, you know what? Again, he has wins over Michael Nunn, 2 wins over Mike McCallum, a win over Iran Barkley, a win over, I think it was Frank Tate that he got a win over, or Thomas Tate. I think it was one of those two. One of the Tates. I think it was Thomas Tate. That was a decent win. But other than that, and Vitaly Jirov at cruiserweight, which I think James was an underdog in that fight. I could be wrong, and he won that cruiserweight title, which is the IBF title from Jirov. But other than that, James Toney, well deserved, long overdue. But again, I think it has something to do with the fact that he's rubbed a lot of people off the wrong way. Him failing a drug test at heavyweight after a championship fight with John Ruiz. You know, I get it. I get it. The Evander Holyfield fight, okay, look. Was Evander still competing? Yes, but look, we all know that version of Evander Holyfield was very, 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 very washed up. Very washed up and way past his prime. Way past his prime. I forgot to mention that James Toney has good wins over Reggie Johnson and who else? Doug DeWitt. So those are very good wins too. And that was early his career at middleweight. And by the way, Doug DeWitt and Reggie Johnson became world champions eventually. So yeah, James Toney's got some very good wins. He's got the Hall of Fame wins over Mike McCallum and Michael Nunn. I think Michael Nunn deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. I think he needs to get in eventually. So and the Vitaly Jirov and the Iran Barkley. So, well deserved for James. But like again, he's kind of like, well, I guess it's not fair for me to put him in the same category as Roberto Duran. But in one instance, what I mean by that, the reason why I bring up Duran's name, because he was another fighter, a very great fighter, but I guess in later his career, he was never disciplined. He was always blown up in weight, and he lost fights that he should never lost, a la Kirkland Lane. So, and rest in peace to Kirkland Lane, but still, anyways, it's glad to see James get in there. Who else we got? Miguel Cotto. Well deserved. No complaints there from Miguel Cotto. Some argue that he lost the majority of his biggest fights. But to be fair, he won some of his biggest fights too. Shane Mosley, Zab Judah. Who else? I guess Ricardo Torres. I know that was a last-minute replacement fight at 140. It is what it is. Chop Corley. Sergio Martinez at middleweight. Daniel Gill. I know those are catchweight fights, but it is what it is. Then you have wins over, some decent wins over Ehrlich and Yuri Foreman. Who else you got? Delvin Rodriguez. That was a somewhat decent win, not a great win, a decent win. But anyways, Miguel Cotto is well deserved. He deserves to be in there. Obviously, the Shane Mosley wins and the Zab Judah wins kind of put him over. And his, several title defenses at welterweight. Some at super middleweight. Not super middleweight, super welterweight. Oh, yeah, Antonio Margarito. Let's not forget about that one. The second fight, the redemption fight that he had, the win over Margarito. And we also have the wins over Paulie Malignaggi, Carlos Quintana, and so forth. Joshua Clottey. He took a bad beating from Manny Pacquiao. Ugh, that was a horrible beating. Horrible beating. With that said, yeah, well deserved for Miguel Cotto. No complaints there. Yeah, Jirov was a good fight. That was actually one of the best cruiserweight fights I've ever seen. One of the greatest cruiserweight fights, man. I remember that broadcast. HBO was telecasting that fight or broadcasting that fight. I remember Emmanuel Stewart. One of the few times he ever went crazy on the broadcast booth. This man went hysterically ballistic, but overly excited because of the action the fight produced. It was a very damn good fight. A brutal fight, but very good, man. Wow. I mean, these guys laid it out in line. Jarov, but unfortunately, Jarov was very exhausted. He was tired. He was just arm punching at the end. He just didn't have anything left. Credit to Jarov though. He got put down very hard by James Toney, but he finished the fight though on his feet. So yeah. Last but not least, Roy Jones Jr. You can say this also was long overdue. And partly was due to the fact that it was long overdue because Roy kept fighting for so many years that I felt that he should never have been fighting. This man was fighting like when he's close to 50 years old, and he was been knocked out many times, and he shouldn't be fighting. But again, it is long overdue for Roy Jones. We all knew he was going to get in eventually, someday, somehow, but he got in finally. Credit, all props to Roy Jones for an amazing career. He was a undisputed light heavyweight champion. Although he never won the lineal championship from Darius Michalczewski. I can't even pronounce his last name sometimes. Darius Michalczewski. So that fight never happened, but it is what it is. Sometimes you don't have to gain the linealship to be recognized as a great fighter. Roy Jones was definitely a great fighter, one of the greatest pound fighters of all time. But as far as ranking him in the top 10, I don't know. I think that's far of a stretch because there's many great fighters that came before Roy Jones Jr. that you could put in the top 10. But yeah, Roy, well deserved. So there was other people. I'm not sure who got in the old timers category, as you want to call it. I have to take a look at that one to see who was inducted in that one. I may have missed it, but I'll go back and check. In fact, let me check right now. Let's see who's been inducted in the old timer section. Let me see. 2022 International Boxing Hall of Fame inductees. Let's see. So you have Bob Kaplan. You have Ron Borges, and you have Bob Yellen. So obviously these are on the these guys are in the contribution sections. Oh yeah, there is one particular name that I forgot to mention in the female induction, other than Holly Holm. We got Regina Helmick. Now people don't know who Regina Helmick was, and obviously she fought in a time when women's boxing didn't really get much exposure. Regina Helmick was a decent fighter at her time, very good fighter at her time. But she fought in the lower weight classes. She fought at light flyweight, super fly, and flyweight. And she had a very long career. She only had one loss and she had 54 wins. She definitely deserves to be in there. She was a long range champion. I mean, she had many title defenses, many. She only suffered one loss, and that was for a vacant flyweight title against Yvonne Trevino. I know the fight was stopped in 4 rounds. I know it was a bit controversial. I watched that fight back in the day in '95, but it is what it is. But other than that, she had a string of title defenses going all the way back to '95 to 2007. I mean, she had a 12-year title reign. She made more than close to 20 title defenses. But the one thing that I would say about her is that she never unified with the other super flyweights or the flyweights. So that's the one thing I will say about Regina Helmick. But other than that, she gets into the Hall of Fame, well deserved. But nobody really talks about her. Nobody's never heard of her. So she's in the Hall of Fame. So congratulations to all the inductees. Pretty decent class. But I got to see the old timers. I don't know why they haven't named anyone yet in the old timers category. Perhaps because they have to combine the 2021 class as well, because I know Andre Ward, Shane Mosley, not Shane Mosley. Shane Mosley got inducted, I think, 2 years prior to that, or 2019. But Floyd Mayweather, Vladimir Klitschko, Andre Ward, they were inducted last year. So, yeah. The one thing I would say, though, is that Simon Brown is criminally has yet to be inducted. I don't know what the hell's going on with that one. He deserves to get in there. I would say this. If you're going to put Buddy McGirt in the Hall of Fame as a modern day fighter, just because he beat Simon Brown for the lineal and the IBF welterweight title, then why not put Simon Brown in there? Because in my view, Simon Brown's a greater fighter than Buddy McGirt. Just because Buddy McGirt beat him doesn't mean that Buddy McGurk was an overall greater fighter than Simon Brown. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. But other than that, I'm gonna go ahead and close this live stream down. I really appreciate you guys for coming in. Shout out to everybody in the chat. I'm out. Peace.